Nintendo Nation.
What's up, Nintendo Nation? We're back with another review. We got Claybook this time for the Nintendo Switch. Let me preface this review by saying that Claybook really is a neat idea. It's a puzzle platformer game where the player must move a cube, or ball, or other shape made out of clay to different objectives, and solve puzzles on a level also made out of clay. Some shapes have special abilities, like a bomb shape that repels clay and a magnet that attracts it. There are stories and chapters that kind of make the game feel like a storybook, but not quite in a cohesive way. The game takes place in a child's bedroom, so you can see some of that in the background. Also, there's a young child using a joystick, so I suppose that's us playing with the clay. Now listen, clay physics is not a phrase that I have ever thought of or I ever intended to think about in my life, but here we are. Understanding the physics of the game is paramount to enjoying it, and that can take some time. I don't think the game has that initial thing needed to grab the player's attention and to hold it for long periods of time. For me, my play sessions consisted of short runs, a level here, a level there, and come to think of it, that's kind of a perfect fit for the Switch, where I think this game might find moderate success. Let's talk about the aforementioned clay physics. The levels made out of clay really do act, I imagine, as clay might act. The shape that the player controls picks up remnants of other color clay as it travels, a nice touch, and the weight of the clay shape will slightly eat away at the level as you traverse it. If your shape falls a large enough distance, the impact will also compress your clay shape and distort it for a short time. And like I said, I don't know anything about clay physics, but I think they're actually really well done. There are 20 pre-made levels which consist of the main game. New chapters and stories unlock as players complete the levels, and depending on how successful they are. When you complete a level, you'll be given a grade, anywhere from 1 star to 3 stars, so there are 60 possible stars needed to 100% the game. The more stars you get, the higher score you will receive, and the quicker the next levels unlock. If you want to get more out of the game beyond this, there is a level creator mode, where you can build your own chapters and your own story. I entered the mode just to check it out, and I was pretty overwhelmed, to be honest. That's not to say it won't be utilized by some people, but I could tell right away that it would not be something I would personally use. These creation levels can be uploaded to the community creation server and be played. I played 1 or 2 that were available, and after completing you can upvote or downvote to increase visibility. The ones I played were very simple. I would actually be curious to see the types of creations people come up with once the game releases. Back to the main mode, moving around the levels consists of using thumbsticks to change the direction and the camera angle. You'll go up, down, and across all manner of ramps and stairs and crosswalks in an attempt to get to your next objective. Objectives include filling tanks with clay or using ZR to eat chocolate pieces with your shape, getting to the next waypoint, or leaving behind a particular shape in a certain spot. Fulfilling these objectives unlocks the exit of the level, which happens when 50% of the objectives are fulfilled. If you want to go for a high score and reach the top of the online leaderboards, you'll want to go for 100% completion while doing it as fast as you can. Traversing the stages is not always the easiest task, but luckily the game has a rewind function, one that you will want to get used to using if you are prone to making mistakes. The rewind always leaves behind a solid shape of clay of whatever shape you are using. You can use this to your advantage to get across gaps or to build steps of sorts to get out of pits or to higher levels. This function does work, and I can see second order's vision for its use, but it's a little difficult to get the hang of. Now, I think I ought to touch on the camera in the game. I really didn't enjoy the camera, and I feel like it just isn't very intuitive. There were many times where I struggled to get to the proper view to help me get where I needed to go. There are many times where the camera goes through and inside objects, and that can be very distracting. Otherwise, it's okay. To touch on the soundtrack quickly, I think Second Order did a good job here too. The orchestrated soundtrack is fun and whimsical, transporting the player to better, simpler times. There isn't much variance, but in general the soundtrack accomplishes the task of making the player feel good while playing. The verdict: Claybook does some interesting things with clay that behaves like real clay, and that really is a unique thing I have never seen before. But once that initial charm wears off, ultimately I think the gameplay just isn't that good. The camera inhibits gameplay a bit too often, and after finishing my playthrough for this review, I have had no real desire to go back to improve my times or scores. So while my initial playthrough was at times fun and entertaining, replayability might be an issue for some. Still, I think the game could find an audience, especially for those looking for a unique puzzle platformer with a custom level builder. Claybook could scratch that itch, but for most it will likely be a game you play once and never think about again. Nintendo Nation is indifferent.